I think there are two types of runners out there. There are those that absolutely love their long run. They look forward to Saturday and Sunday. And there are those that absolutely loathe their long run. As they go out on a Monday or Tuesday for their normal start of the week, they've got this big dark cloud hanging over their head, and that's the upcoming long run that they feel they've got to get done on the Saturday or the Sunday. So if that's you, if you're someone who's maybe a little bit out of ideas for how to make their long run a bit more interesting, this episode in season 3 is perfect for you. We're going to give you a couple of varieties as to how you can make your long run more enjoyable and more interesting so that your training can have a bit more variety into it. So let's hit those intros and get this episode going. Okay, welcome back to another episode of Why I Run TV. Thanks very much, as always, for joining us. We really do appreciate your support week in, week out. Maybe in the last 7 days, you've got in a few calf and Achilles exercises from our previous episode. And thanks again for all the feedback that you've given us and the extra ideas that people have sent in about what they do to strengthen that part of their lower leg. As I said in the intros, this episode is all about the long run, and in particular, how you can add a bit of variety and a bit more interest into your long run. If you're one of those runners who really doesn't look forward to it too much, in this episode we're going to give you a few ideas as to how you can make your long run a bit more varied and a little bit more interesting just by spicing things up with a few different routines. So the weekend long run is absolutely crucial regardless of what race you're training for, whether it's a short distance race, a half marathon, a marathon, or even an ultra distance. It's one that people really want to tick off, and it can kind of make or break your training week if you really have a good long run. It makes you feel on top of the world, it makes you feel that you're unbeatable, and it really gives you that confidence as a runner that we want from our long run. Now, long runs can vary obviously depending on what event it is that you're actually training for, and also what phase of the training program you're actually in. So for this episode and for this discussion about long runs, we're going to use 2.5 hours as a bit of a benchmark. If you're running longer or you're running shorter, adjust the numbers to suit whatever long run you're doing. Now, one thing I've picked up from a lot of coaches that I've had over the years and from experts in the field is that when we do our long runs, we should really be looking at time rather than distance. And as an amateur, that's important because if we focus too much on distance, we don't take into account the variables in our life as an amateur athlete. If we focus on time, we take into account the stress of work, we take into account our family life and all those different things that come into it, how we're feeling on the day as well. So when you're planning your long runs, really try and think about time rather than distance. Okay, so to start with, option 1 for our long run is just the tried and tested long, slow distance or long sustained distance. When you go out in the first couple of weeks of your training program, you really want to get the minutes under your belt. And I find the best way to do that, rather than doing it on the road, is actually to get off-road, to jump on the trails, to jump into the mountains and really do your long run out there. The trails are great because we get an opportunity to hike up hills and walk up hills and also jog down hills and run some single trails and some fire trails and things like that. It's really beneficial early in our training program because the fatigue that we get on our body is far less than if we were to do this on the road. So as we begin our long runs, actually getting away from the road onto the trails is really beneficial. So that's option 1 for you. If you've been doing your long runs on the road, perhaps think about jumping into the trails and getting, apart from anything else, a far more scenic and a far more beautiful approach to your running, but it's also very good for your body and it allows you to back up week after week when you're trying to tick off those long runs. Okay, for me, option number 2 is one of my favorites, and this is 30 minutes off, 30 minutes on. So how we do this, if we work around that 2.5 hour long run, is to jog at 30 minutes at a really easy conversational pace. Once the 30 minutes is up, we then hit our marathon target pace or whatever pace we're actually aiming for. For this episode, let's just talk marathon target pace. So 30 minutes conversational, 30 minutes at marathon target pace. Then after that, bring it back again for another 30 minutes at a very easy conversational pace. Then into 30 minutes at marathon target pace and finish off the session finally with 30 minutes of easy conversational running. I really like this one. It's one that I put in quite a bit regardless of whether I'm running a shorter long run or a longer long run, because having 30 minutes off and then 30 minutes on and then 30 minutes off again really breaks up the long run. Really, you're only thinking 30 minutes at a time before you change the speed. So there's option number 2, 30 minutes off, 30 minutes on. Okay, so the third option is one that I would only put in the last 8 to 10 weeks of our marathon training program. And you only want to really use this one sparingly because it is a harder long run. It's going to fatigue you a little bit more than just doing a long, slow distance approach to your running. So use this one sparingly. put it in those final 8 to 10 weeks. And this is the Build Long Run, where you actually get stronger and faster and quicker as the long run progresses. So here's how you do it. 90 minutes to start with at a really easy conversational pace, nice and slow. Once that 90 minutes has come up, 30 minutes then at your marathon target pace. After that 30 minutes, for the next 20 minutes, you want to drop it down to half marathon pace, maybe 10 to 15 seconds a kilometer quicker than you were running at your marathon pace. And then finally, that's going to leave you with 10 minutes left. Now in this last 10 minutes, I like to call this the courage zone. So the courage zone is whatever you have left. Go as fast as you possibly can, stay in control, stay powerful, but if you're feeling really good, push the pace. If you're not feeling quite that great, then maybe just try and drop it a little bit quicker than a half marathon pace. So the Build Run makes you feel absolutely wonderful at the end of it because you're tired, you're spent, but because you've done 90 minutes of easy running at the start, it's one where you feel great even at the end when you're pushing hard. 90 minutes easy, 30 minutes at marathon pace, 20 minutes at half marathon pace, and then finish it off with a 10 minutes of courage running. The Build Run, it's a great one to use sparingly and one that's going to get you really marathon fit. Okay, the fourth and final option for a little bit of a different approach to how you can do your long run as you prepare for a marathon. This one, I think, again, use it sparingly, like the Build Run, only do this once, maybe twice, and put it in maybe at sort of 3 to 4 weeks out from your race date. This one I find is great because it really is a form finder for me. It indicates what kind of shape I'm in and it tells me whether I'm really set and whether I'm really ready for that race day. So this one is the Marathon Form Finder. So here's how we do the Marathon Form Finder. Make sure you're nice and warm for this one, so go for a walk to start with or a bit of an easy jog for 10 minutes or so because you start this one at marathon pace. 30 minutes at marathon pace, then 5 minutes at a nice, easy, slow recovery jog. Next, 25 minutes at marathon pace, followed by again 5 minutes at a nice, easy, slow recovery pace. Now here's where we ramp it up a little bit, and like the Build Run, we're going to get faster and faster. Now 20 minutes at half marathon pace. Pick it up 10 to 15 seconds a kilometer. After that 20 minutes, again 5 minutes at a recovery, nice, slow jog. Then we drop it to 15 minutes, this time at a 10 kilometer target pace. After that 10 kilometer target pace for 15 minutes, we then have a 5 minute, nice, easy, slow recovery jog. And then we finish off this part of the session with 10 minutes, again at courage, which is, I guess, is kind of like a bit of a 5K or a park run pace. Whatever you have left for the final 10 minutes, then drop it back 5 minutes of nice, easy jogging. That will probably leave you with around 10 to 15 minutes then to just round off this particular long run and to run nice and easy and at that conversational pace. This one, as I said, I absolutely love it. I do this one 3 to 4 weeks out from a marathon and it really lets me know what kind of shape I'm in. It makes me feel great because if you nail this one, you know that you're ready, you know that race day is coming around the corner and you are fit and raring to go. So the Marathon Form Run is one that I absolutely love. Now, I'd love to know from you guys what sort of variety or what sort of options you put into your long run, how you mix it up, how you make it a bit different. So put a comment in the section below and just tell us a bit about how you do your long runs. If this is the first time that you've joined us on Wire Run TV, thanks very much for stopping by. We hope you've got something out of this episode. If you can follow us or like us on Instagram or Facebook, that would be great. You can get these episodes as they come out each week. To those that watch this each and every week, thank you very much for your support. We do really appreciate it. We appreciate all the feedback that you give us. And we hope that you've got something from this episode, maybe even just one idea that you can put into your long run to make it a little bit different. As always, work closely with your coach and your physio to make sure that your training is absolutely perfect and timed to perfection as well. And we'll see you in 7 days' time for the next episode of Wire Run TV. Have a great week.